Welcome to the deep dive. Quite a week we've just had. May 4th through 10th, 2025. Lots happening all over the world.
Absolutely. We've looked through reports on, well, everything from conflicts and diplomatic efforts to political shifts, even some cultural bits and future tech.
Right, so our mission here, as always, is to try and connect these dots for you, to pull out the key insights from all this noise and give you a clearer picture of, well, where things stand globally.
Exactly. Cut through the clutter. Let's get into it.
Okay, starting with those international tensions. Europe seemed to make a pretty significant move on the Ukraine front.
Yes. Several European leaders were in Kyiv. They were pushing quite hard for a 30-day ceasefire.
Okay.
What's really interesting is they spoke directly with President Trump about it. Suggests a coordinated Western approach trying to find an off-ramp.
But it's never simple, is it? What was Russia's take?
Predictably complex. They came back with a counter-demand. A total halt to arms supplies to Ukraine. Only then would they consider a ceasefire.
So a fundamental block right there.
A fundamental disagreement on, just the basic conditions for even a temporary pause.
Then closer to home for some, that really worrying spike between India and Pakistan after the Kashmir attack, that sounded bad.
It was definitely a dangerous moment. Retaliatory strikes, significant casualties reported, very tense.
Wow.
But what stood out was how quickly diplomacy kicked in. The U.S. really led the charge there.
And it worked.
Surprisingly fast, yes. A ceasefire agreed upon, and talks are planned. It really shows how crucial that international intervention can be in pulling things back from the edge.
Okay, let's shift focus a bit. Global alignments. Russia's Victory Day parade seemed quite telling this year.
Very telling. You had leaders from China and Brazil right there.
But not Western leaders.
Exactly. A noticeable absence. It paints a picture, doesn't it? Russia's sort of showcasing its current partnerships, its allies in this, shifting world order.
And speaking of China, they're gearing up for that big summit, right? With ASEAN and Gulf nations. Premier Li Qiang was just in Malaysia.
Yeah, laying the groundwork. And this is happening, remember, with those ongoing, maybe even growing, U.S.-China trade tensions in the background.
That's another layer.
It definitely does. It looks like a strategic push from China to really strengthen ties, both economic and political, across Asia and the Middle East, reshaping alliances, potentially.
Okay, let's bring it closer to the U.S. Domestically, the Republican tax bill proposal, that's starting to bubble up.
Yes, the idea is to make those Trump-era tax cuts permanent. With the election cycle starting to spin up, this is, it's setting the stage for a major political fight.
Big questions about economic policy.
Fundamental questions, absolutely. And then still in the U.S., those suspensions at Columbia University over the pro-Palestinian protests.
That really brought the campus free speech debate back into the spotlight, didn't it?
It did. It highlights that really difficult balancing act for universities, freedom of expression versus, maintaining safety and order. It forces everyone to re-examine where the lines are.
It wasn't all conflict and politics, though. Saw something about nuclear power in Ontario.
Yes. That's quite forward-looking. Canada's aiming to build a small, modular nuclear reactor. A G7 first, apparently.
Smaller reactors.
Smaller, potentially more flexible. It's a clear move towards sustainable energy options and could be, a model for others, perhaps.
And also looking ahead, Nepal's hosting that Sagarmatha Sambad climate change focus.
That's right. Focused on climate change and the future of humanity. Big themes. They're expecting world leaders, climate experts. It's a platform to try and forge some serious global commitments. Very timely.
Absolutely. And on the cultural, maybe symbolic side, Pope Leo XIV had his inaugural week, the first American pope, quite historic.
Indeed. And his arrival coincides with a Holy Year, which adds, another layer of significance. Lots of anticipation around his official inauguration and the Jubilee events. Shows the Vatican's enduring influence.
And we can't forget Eurovision. The buzz is building for 2025 in Switzerland.
Of course. Already hearing about frontrunners KJ from Sweden, JJ from Austria.
Always fun.
It is. And, while it's a big cultural party, there are always those subtle undercurrents of national identity and politics mixed in. It's that blend.
So looking back at the week, it's just everything feels connected, doesn't it? Conflict, diplomacy, these big political shifts, but also these forward-looking things happening.
It really underscores the interconnectedness. A regional tension flares up here, a diplomatic push there, alliances subtly shifting. It all links together. It's a world constantly, recalibrating.
So we've covered a lot in this deep dive. As you've been listening, maybe think about this. Considering everything we've touched on, what single emerging trend do you believe might have the biggest long-term impact? Something to mull over. Thanks for joining us.